Thanks, Randy.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Well, am I on here? Yeah. Okay. Thank you very much, Randy, and also thank you, Gus. Thank you, Karen, for inviting us today. We really appreciate the chance to be here with a great group like you guys, and hello to Minnesota. I'm from Wisconsin, so I have been to VLR many times, actually. So it's really neat to have you guys on board. Sherry, thank you for taking care of that so that we're broadcast throughout the world. Isn't that cool? Again, it's great to be in New York. I am not a Yankees or Mets fan. I do have to pass that on to you. I am a Milwaukee Brewers fan, and they are 2 games out. So I'd like to see the Brewers and the Yankees in the World Series. We'll see what happens. Let's hope. Because the Yankees are good, no question.
Go Badgers.
Go Badgers, thank you. Go Packers. All right. I just wanted to kind of follow up on a couple things that Randy said and before I jump into the non-low vision products. One of them is that he talked about the lifestyle, which is the desktop CCTV. What is really neat about HD, for those of you who have some vision, HD is cool because it's brighter, it's clearer. You can go to a lower magnification level. What is happening in the industry is that these products that are coming out are still the same price as the non-HD products. So you hear about these new features and you think, oh no, more price. Well, it's really the opposite. More and more features are being added at the same time. The price is staying where it belongs, which is very, very neat. So I wanted to mention that about the lifestyle units. Another thing that he mentioned was we have a low-end product. It's not HD, but it's under $2,300 for a brand new desktop CCTV, which is something that, yes, it's still some money, but it's lower than most of the other products that you can find out there. And I just wanted to point that out. The other thing I wanted to comment on is Randy talked about the candy, and my stomach, I think, started growling when he said candy. But the candy grip, he mentioned this too, but I wanted to just follow up on this. The fact that it has 2 cameras and that it's a 5-inch screen and that it has continuous zoom, you won't find that from any other manufacturer yet. You notice I say yet because we all copy each other all the time. But that's a very unique product, and if you who have some vision, please, when we're done, come on up and spend some time looking at these. So just a little bit on the low vision. HIMS is involved in 2...
Really quick. Are the same, except for the HD, for the lower model, all the features that Randy indicated are in the $2,300 model?
The features that you would not have in the $2,300 product. Number 1, the connectivity to a laptop or desktop. Number 2, the line markers and the windows that Randy was talking about. There's also a feature in the $29.95 that allows you to go between text mode and picture mode. It actually spreads out the image on the screen. That is not in the $2,300. Otherwise, yes, everything else is the same. So if those features are not truly important and HD is not a necessity, you'll have the same product. In fact, if you look at it, it looks the same as far as the chassis is concerned, as far as what it looks like as you look at it or touch it. Screen-wise, it's identical. It's just some of those extra features. HIMS is involved in 2 other parts, if you will, of manufacturing. One of them are the Braille and voice products, and we're going to spend quite a bit of time on those here. And the third area that HIMS is involved in are the BookSense Daisy reading devices, which I will also talk about. We're here till like 9 tonight, so I have lots of time. So you guys go get yourself a cup of coffee. We're going to be here a while. No, we will go through these pretty quickly. I'm going to start with the Braille and voice devices. And you know as well as I do that there's a company, a small little company up in California. They're called Apple. I predict they're going to be big someday. Now, the reason I'm mentioning Apple is that a lot of people say to me, well, why would you still provide and make a note-taking device when all the Apple products are out there and you have VoiceOver and so forth? What my motto is, you can't beat them, join them. And so that's exactly what we have done with our products. And as we go through, keep in mind, every product I talk about works with your iPad or iPhone. So it's something that allows that to be used as well at the same time. However, the first 5 products do also work very well by themselves. And the original products were called Braille Sense. Randy was making a lot of sense, and he was talking about Braille and Voice and Book and Sense View. We've changed the name on some of our products to U2. Not U3, but U2. So You Also, or the rock band U2. So our Braille devices now have had their name changed to U2. What does that mean? If you were to come up and look at a Braille Sense, and I'll talk specifically what a Braille Sense is and was, and a U2, you hardly would be able to tell the difference. But what we have done with our new note-taking devices, we have doubled the processing speed, we have doubled the RAM, and RAM is important to keep things moving, that's the way I like to describe it, and we've quadrupled the amount of memory internally. Beyond that, the same quality exists. And so I'm going to generally talk about the 5 units and then kind of go into specifics. We are different from other manufacturers in a few ways. Number one, any of our units, if you pick up the unit and start banging, and I mean that loudly on the keyboard, you won't hear it very well. We're very proud of the way our units sound and work. Number two, upgrades are absolutely free. So once you have the unit, unless you throw it off of a bridge or something, you're pretty much set for quite a few years. We have had countless upgrades, software-wise, since I've been with the company, which has been 2 years. And every one of them is free. And most of the time, you can get those upgrades right through the unit itself. So you don't even have to go to your computer, unzip a file, stick the files onto your SD card. You can do that. Sometimes you may have to do that if your internet connection isn't good, or maybe our servers are down or whatever. So there's 2 ways to upgrade. We feel that that's very, very important. Once you have the units in hand, you're set. And if we introduce new features, which I will be talking about shortly, they're yours. They're not things that you have to go buy. Now, if hardware changes, which of course it did when we went to the U2, and if you're upgrading, then of course there's going to be a difference in cost there. So that's the second piece that we're proud of all of our units. Third, some of our units, in other words, the Braille units, the ones that have Braille keyboards, have a built-in LCD display. For those of us who can't see worth a darn, that's no big deal. But in schools especially, if a student is working with a teacher who is sighted, the fact that that teacher can watch immediately what the student is doing. The student is writing in grade 2 Braille, for example, or contracted Braille. That information is immediately shown on the display as a text document. So a science teacher, a parent of a college student who is recently blinded, a recently blinded adult who is working with a sighted counselor, they don't have to know Braille to know what that person is doing with the device. That display electronically can be flipped backwards so that if I'm sitting at my desk and somebody walks up, they can sit across from me and they can watch what I'm doing from the other side. It's a really neat feature. For those of us who are working alone and don't need someone, we just turn that display off. We just say, we don't want you guys to know what we're doing. So we turn that off, and it's available. It's not available. All units are menu-driven. For those of us who have used computers, whether it's an Apple product or a Windows-based product, you know that there are menus throughout everything you do. With the products that we have, there are menus in the products as well. Excuse me. That's important because if you are looking at a product, or let's say you're in Word, you don't know how to print, well, you can just hit the menu bar and go find print and print the document. Excuse me. And so that makes it easier to use. Randy mentioned simplicity when he talked about the lifestyle. Yeah, I'm a Braille person, so to me, Braille is simple. But I guess what I have seen in the marketplace is that people say, your products are easy to use. They really aren't that hard. And the biggest struggle is learning where some of the buttons are, not what they do. And we're very proud of that as well. Now, to break down the products that we have, and some of you have been up here and you have seen some of the products and have been able to get your hands on them. And please do that afterwards as well if you have time before you have to hit this wonderful New York traffic. The two U2 products are called the U2 and the U2 QWERTY. QWERTY, of course, means a regular keyboard with QWERTY on the top row, at least the row above your home row. Those units are 32 cells of Braille. One has a Braille keyboard. Excuse me again. One has a QWERTY keyboard. Otherwise, they are identical in how they work. These units have a lot of new features, and one of them that I think a lot of you are going to like is something called Google Maps. Google Maps is a way for you, if you have Wi-Fi available, or if you plug in an optional wireless card from your carrier, you can put together a route between point A and point B on your device. You can look at your points of interest around you and see what's nearby. All of that is available just from the unit itself. Now, if you want to go in and do some major GPSing, is that a word? I just made it up if it isn't. There is a product called SenseNav in conjunction with Sendero, and that is even much more powerful than what Google Maps is offering. Google Maps was rolled out to our other devices as well. So the two U2 products have 3 USB ports, actually 4, counting the one that you can use to plug it into your computer. A lot of memory. We also support National Library Service, NLS. So you can play your talking books on any of our devices, including the U2 products. And we have an application called Bookshare.
Oh, nice. Yeah.
Now, a lot of you have played and used Bookshare, but what's really neat about Bookshare is it's just an app inside the unit itself. So it allows you to, instead of going to bookshare.org, you just go to Bookshare, you launch it, and you type in your book name, you hit enter, or if you want to change it to periodical, you can do that. Press enter, the device will go up, get the book, download it, unzip it, and make it available for reading. And it takes just a few seconds. And the U2s, because they are so powerful as far as their processing is concerned, it's very, very quick. And so it's something that we really, really appreciate having and available to the products. Those software packages are also being released and have been released for the other products that are available. The all units, I'm going back to all units now, all have 5 buttons on the front. Those buttons are for playback of your DAISY files, of your MP3s if you are into music like Gus and I are. If you want to listen to the FM radio, you want to listen to PLJ or Z100 or whatever, you can fire that up right through the U2 itself. We have a lock feature, which means that if you're wandering around and you don't want to bump the buttons, you don't have to do that. You can lock the feature. So those are in all of our units, and especially in the 2 U2 products. Then we have a little product that I think every lady that I've ever met calls cute. It's called an on-hand. Now, not me. Now, they don't say I'm cute. They say that the on-hand. I just want to clarify. They do say my dog is cute too, but it's usually the dog or the on-hand when I meet people out in the field. The on-hand is a small I'll call it a small U2 because it's instead of 32 cells, it's 18 cells. It's less than a pound. It fits in the palm of your hand. I forgot we're being videoed. I should be holding these up. I just realized that. Sorry. And I'm holding up the U2 right now. It's a very, very tiny device, and it has the same features as the U2. Its processing is a little bit slower because it's last year's model, but it truly is a device that would fit in your pocket, almost, and definitely in your purse. It has the same exact features, and there's an optional LCD display available for it, so if someone needs visual help with it, they can plug in this little LCD display, and that makes it immediately available. So that is the U2. I'm sorry, the on-hand. Again, I forgot we were being videoed. I'm going to hold up the U2 QWERTY, which I already talked about. The U2 QWERTY specifically looks like a netbook with a Braille display on the front of it. It has a very, very nice full-blown keyboard. In other words, the keys aren't smashed together. They're fully laid out, not quite as big as a keyboard that you would use with a desktop, but very much like a laptop keyboard. But it has a Braille display. So if you are recently blinded or you love to type rather than Braille, this U2 is truly going to make that possible for you. And there is not another device on the market that has this type of keyboard that allows for typing with all that space and having a Braille display at the same time. So just going back to the U2 QWERTY on that, and that's a new product that actually has just come out. Okay, so we've talked about the two U2s, we've talked about the on-hand. The next product is called the VoiceSense QWERTY, and we've got so many products up here. I am not finding it. Oh, here it is. No, here it is. If it was any closer, I'd be able to see it. Yeah. Now, this is a product that Gus is coveting.
I am.
So I need to tattle on him that he is wanting this, and I'm going to check him as he leaves to make sure it's not moved back.
You might have to.
Yeah, well, no, I'm not going to do that. Exactly. So this is the VoiceSense QWERTY. What is this? The best way to describe this is a tiny, 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 tiny netbook. The keys are even smaller than on the U2 QWERTY. It weighs 0.8 of a pound. It has instant on and off. No Braille in the front, so it's truly a speech device with a QWERTY keyboard. It's that simple. It's light and it works instantly, and that's why people like it so much. It very easily, as all of our products, plugs into a regular computer if you want to move files back and forth. All of our products have an SD slot or more. But the VoiceSense QWERTY is truly a very small. I'm actually holding it over my head. It's so light. I'm holding it literally with one hand, the palm of one hand. It's very, very little. Here you go, Gus.
Thanks.
And then our final Braille voice product is something called a VoiceSense. And the VoiceSense is truly interesting because it looks like a tiny, tiny little Braille writer with no Braille on the front of it. It is a regular Braille keyboard and speech. Very light, weighs a little more than the VoiceSense QWERTY, but very, very light in the way that it works. And those are our 5 products. Now, when software is released, it's released for all of our products. So if something new comes out in software, no matter what Braille device or voice device you have from HIMS, that software is going to be made available to that product. Before we jump into my favorite product, you're not supposed to have favorite kids. Well, I have a favorite product. So I just want to mention a couple things that we're about to roll out for all of our devices. One of them is called, another company that I think is going to be big someday, Google. There's a piece of software, well, I already mentioned Google Maps, but there's a piece of software now that we're rolling out to all products called Google Search. So instead of going to google.com, you launch Google Search, you type in what you're looking for, you hit enter, it brings up all of the occurrences, You arrow down to the one you want, press enter, the browser comes up and you start reading. So it's just another way to quickly get into Google searching. Sure, you can go to the web and you can do it the same way, but just like Bookshare, it's neat because it's right there in front of you. Something else that we're rolling out, and I think this is kind of cool, it was really developed for our deaf-blind community, but it works for all of us. It's called HIMS Chat. And what it means is, if Gus and I want to talk about our favorite new band, I can say, Gus, launch Google Chat. And then I'll launch Google Chat, and we will sit next to each other, and for the next 3 hours, we'll text to each other, and nobody will know what we're doing. So the reason we initially rolled it out, or are rolling it out, is so that two deaf-blind individuals, or a deaf-blind individual with a blind individual, can communicate easily with each other. But as long as you're in the same room, within Bluetooth range, if you will, this is something that's very easy to use and very fun to use. Again, it's free. It's just part of all of our devices that come out. So if you have a friend in a meeting and the meeting is boring as can be, as long as you have a Braille sense or a voice sense, you can chat with each other. Yeah. Now this meeting hopefully is not boring, too boring anyway. So something we're about to roll out. It's in beta, but it is very neat to be able to use that. So those are our 5, if you will, Braille and voice products. Now I'm going to jump into my favorite product. I love this device. And what I'm holding up right now is something called the Braille Edge. Remember earlier I mentioned U2? Well, U2 is a band, and Edge happens to be the guitarist in U2. I don't know where HIMS came up with these names, but I'll just blame it on the rock band U2. But this is called a Braille Edge. It is a 40-cell Braille display instead of 32. It has a keyboard. And what really makes it neat, a couple things. Number one, it's priced under $3,000. And as Braille displays have come and been made available, you've seen the price start to drop. And frankly, there are some other products on the market for around this price. But there are not any products at this price range that have some other features like this Braille Edge does. First of all, of course, the Braille Edge works with any computer. So whether you're using JAWS, WindowEyes, System Access, NVDA, HAL or Supernova, it's going to work with your computer. Number 2, it works with all iOS products. So whether it's a iPhone or an iPad or an iPod Touch, or if you're using a MacBook Pro or Mac Air, you can either plug it in with a USB cable or you can Bluetooth it and use it as a wireless device. That's cool. But what also is really neat is that this is also a standalone note taker. So let's say that Gus is going to his class tonight and he had planned to use his iPhone with the Braille Edge. And for some reason the battery is dead on the iPhone, or the Bluetooth drops and he can't use the Braille. I know he's not a Braille user, but we'll pretend you are. We'll pretend. What he can do is literally open up Notepad and start writing. So it's not the power of the note-taking that you see on the 5 other units, but it does have the ability to do note-taking. Not only that, you can do what's called a clipboard, where you can take what you wrote and then drop it back into your iOS product once that device is up and running again. So it's just it's a really powerful device. It has no speech. So your computer, your iPhone is going to do the speaking. But for those of us who are Braille users, we don't want speech anyway. So as a standalone device, you can just turn it on and start using it. It has a calculator. It has a clock. It has a few other features like a scheduler. So it does give you some options as well. So that's called the Braille Edge. And what's neat about all of these products that I've talked about is that I think every one of us in here, if we have a sight disability, whether we're low vision or totally blind, we have products for everybody in here, which is really exciting. So that is all of our Braille voice and then our Braille Edge, if you will, Braille display product. The last product that I'm going to talk about before we open up for questions and have hands-on for all of the products is our BookSense. And Randy, is ours charged now, do you think? I made the mistake of coming here with a BookSense that didn't work. Oh, sounds good. Okay, thank you. Actually, before I talk about the BookSense, what's really neat as well is that all of the products that we've talked about today, with the exception of the Lifestyle, can use the same adapter. So no matter what product you have, in fact, I carry one adapter with me in my bag of tricks, just one, for every product that I'm carrying. So just mention that because as Randy handed it to me, it told me that it was charged. BookSense. For those of you, how many of you have a BookSense or have used it? Say aye.
Aye.
Okay, we've got a couple. I'd like next year to have all of you say aye when I ask that question. What is a BookSense? BookSense is a daisy player, if you will. It's a device that plays every type of, I guess, any type of book, any type of document, pretty much any file that's out there, as well as a recorder. So it can play your National Library Service talking books. It can play your daisy books from Bookshare. It has a phenomenal text-to-speech engine. I'll let you hear it here.
1:04 p.m. and 53 seconds Thursday, September 20th, 2012. 1:04 p.m. and 57 seconds.
And that's Wisconsin time, so it's really 2:04-ish. So the speech is excellent on it. It also has a calculator built into it, so that if you are needing something quickly and you want to just calculate, you can do so. It looks very much like a cell phone. I tell the story often. Randy and I were actually traveling together in Korea, and it was our last day before we left for home. And I'm bored because we're shopping, and I hate shopping. But everybody wanted to go shopping, and Randy was our wonderful host. But it's like after about 5 minutes of that, I'm done. So I got out my BookSense, and I had it up to my ear, and I was listening to I don't know what. And Randy stood there and for about 2 minutes didn't say anything to me because he thought I was talking on the phone. So, and this is someone who knows the BookSense. So it looks very, very much like a cell phone. It also has an FM radio in it, and one of the devices has what's called Bluetooth, which means that if you don't want to run wires between your BookSense and your Bluetooth headset, you can do that wirelessly. So I'm going to go ahead and just push a button here.
Daisy. Bookshare, 1 of 4.
So now I'm in the Daisy. I'm just going to press the down arrow.
NFB Newsline, 2 of 4.
And the NFB Newsline means, I hope many of you use the NFB Newsline. It is a phenomenal service that if you have a BookSense, you could literally plug your BookSense into your computer, and all of your favorite newspapers and magazines would be put on your BookSense for reading later. So those of you who have long commutes, it's great because you plug it in when you wake up in the morning, and as you go, grab it, and they're all there.
NLS, 3 of 4.
And of course the NLS books, if I press the right arrow,
No list.
okay, let me see why that's doing that.
SD card.
Okay.
Bookshare, 1 of 4.
What happens is this particular unit has internal memory and an SD card. So even if you don't have an SD card, you can just connect your BookSense to your computer and use the internal 4 gigs of memory inside of here. So let's try this again.
NFB Newsline, NLS, 3 of 4.
I'm going to press the right arrow.
People, August 13th, 2012.
Okay, you can tell I get People magazine because of all the music stuff that's in there. And I simply press play, and it starts playing. So any book or anything from the NLS service will work.
NLS, 3 of 4. RFB&D, 4 of 4.
And RFB&D is now called Learning Ally, but if you are a college student, all your Learning Ally books will work on here as well. I'm going to press the mode button.
Document reader. BookSense manual, folder, 1 of 6.
Okay, let's listen to the entire BookSense manual, shall we? That sounds like fun. That is a regular text file, but I also have an HTML version of the BookSense manual, which also works. So your text files will work very well in the BookSense. We'll go on.
Radio.
And I don't have an antenna plugged in. There's your radio.
Media. Audiobooks, folder, 1 of 6.
And then media, where you can have all your MP3s. So any type of music or podcasts or anything of that sort would be used in here. It also has a lock feature,
Locked. Unlocked. Locked. Unlocked.
which is nice. If you're bumping it or not bumping it by locking it, that takes care of that as well. So that's the BookSense. If you haven't seen it, I think you'll really enjoy it. I always save pricing for last, so I'll do that real quick, and then we'll open it up for questions here. The BookSense, since we talked about that first, the standard edition is $349. That means it doesn't have a radio, it doesn't have Bluetooth, it doesn't have internal memory. The BookSense XT, which is the one I was using, is $499, but it has the radio, it has the Bluetooth connection capabilities, it also has the internal storage. We have one more unit, which I haven't shown here today. I do have it with me. It's called a BookSense DS. It's even smaller than the BookSense, and it actually has an, a LED screen on it, a small one. So it would be for someone who maybe has a learning disability, someone who might suffer with dyslexia, has trouble reading. It would let you follow along on the screen as that book is being read, but the same features as what are on the BookSense. Okay, Randy, did I forget anything?
I don't think you talked about the GPS receiver.
Oh, okay. We're going to go back to the U2 and the on-hand. I neglected to mention that there is a built-in GPS receiver in those three devices, so that if you're using Google Maps and you're close enough to a window and have Wi-Fi going, it will actually know where you are and put a map together accordingly based on where you are. Or if you're using SenseNav from Sendero, same thing. You have the internal receiver available. But if you don't have an internal receiver or are using another product that doesn't, you can just Bluetooth an external receiver to it and it'll work just as well. Tomorrow we're going to spend a little time at Helen Keller, and one of the things we're going to be talking about is our deaf-blind applications. We're working on an app for the iPhone so that I could hand an iPhone to anybody and they could start talking to me through my U2 or my Edge, Braille Edge. So we're working on that too. Okay.